The way I look at it is like vulnerability is a tree or a plant. So your man comes to you dry and withered up, and what you're doing is creating a nice, soft, wet soil for him to bloom. Hey, babe, you look beautiful. Welcome back. And if you're new here, how are you? How you doing? I'm Kalilah, and this is Keeping Up with Kalilah. And today's episode, we are talking about getting bae to be vulnerable. If you have questions about getting him to open up, or questions about taking your relationship to the next level emotionally, stay tuned, because your girl has some tips that she wants to share with you all. As you all know, with the current events that have been going on, it's been very difficult to, as a Black woman, to have the strength and inspiration to want to even film. Before we get started, I think it's first important that we acknowledge the gap of emotional maturity between men and women. And as a woman who has been groomed and even encouraged to be emotional, and I really personally don't even really like that word, because I think there's a negative connotation with it, because humans have emotions, even people who choose not to show them in the same way. However, it is important that we acknowledge that first. So your vulnerability may look different from his vulnerability, or it may look the same. So if you're not ready to see bae open up, or if displays of emotion are actually uncomfortable to you, I would first work on becoming comfortable with seeing these displays before I go down that path. So before you can ask him to go there with you, please be sure that you're ready to receive, that you're open, and that you're not expecting the exchange to go one specific way. First up, you want to create a safe space. And a safe space is environment and timing. So make sure the time is appropriate, that you guys have a free time, and also the environment is welcoming and spacious for that. So if you know your bae usually likes to loosen up with a drink, do it once you guys are having a drink, a glass of wine. If you know bae likes to open up with a little weed, a little make sure he has his bud. Create the space of safety. But what we're doing is we're overcompensating for a safety and comfort, so that the potentially uncomfortable feelings that are coming up inside are not clashing with discomfort in circumstances. Also, be mindful of the mood. This is a long-term relationship or even short-term relationship. Be aware of his energy and of his mood. For example, if he's not a morning person, don't be trying to get deep in the morning. If he, you know what I mean? Just be aware, be mindful. Don't treat the vulnerability aspect as a regular question, because oftentimes it's not. So it should be treated with care and intentionality, so that it's received in a soft space, in a soft way. Second, lead the way. So one of the things that I have done is share something that is difficult and that is brave and that is clearly dear and close to you. What this does is this acknowledges a level of trust in between you guys. So you're letting him know, hey, I'm trusting you with my heart, and I understand that you're going to handle it with care. So then you're opening up for him to trust you with his heart. So lead the way. This may be one of the few areas as a woman that I personally think it is great to lead, because we have more practice with this. We have more practice. If we're all acknowledging the gap of emotional maturity, we have a large range of emotions that we're encouraged to share. So to give you guys a little background, having growing up, a man grows up and is told not to cry, and is told that the only display of pain that they should show is anger. And if they have pain, or if they have something that's difficult that they're going through, they're encouraged to be quiet about it, or to be flippant about it. That is the opposite of what it is to be vulnerable and emotionally mature. Maturity is acknowledging, feeling, and being comfortable expressing. So we're compensating that. Another tip is exercises or games. So I'm a really big proponent of games and exercises and tests and those types of things. And I can't say that I have necessarily come across a man who is as excited about those things. However, if you express to him that this is something that is important to you, I believe that they would be open to trying it, especially if you express that this is a tool that you want to have so that you can get closer to him. So for example, there's a New York Times article that was written in 2015 called The 36 Questions to Make You Fall in Love. And the way it is broken up into, I think, 3 sections of 12. The questions get gradually more intense. So for example, I think from one of the first questions is like, what is your relationship like with your mom? And it's a really direct way of asking a specific question, as opposed to you being like, share something with me. It guides the conversation so that all the work that you're doing is being open, receptive, and using your powers of nurturing to water that plant to continue to build this trust. The way I look at it is like vulnerability is a tree or a plant. So your man comes to you dry and withered up, and what you're doing is creating a nice, soft, wet soil for him to bloom. Another game that I've not played, but I can see how the questions can lead to vulnerable open topics, is the Mentally Stimulate Me game by Derek Jackson. Those questions can bypass the kind of shallow questions that happen with date night. You know, just the shallow type questions that we ask, because what we also want to do is not make vulnerability taboo. You want to make vulnerability comfortable and regular. And the way that you do that is by infusing it wherever you can. The last tip that I'll have for you is to use trial and error. This is that one way might not work. One night you do it, you have the setting up, you have your question right, and he might shut down. He may say, I don't feel like talking about it, I'm tired, I'm not. Don't take it personally, because as easy as it is for you to say, oh, like my feelings were hurt, or I'm upset because you said that, it can be very terrifying for a man, so I've heard, to share their feelings, especially if in the past they have not been allowed to or encouraged to. I've had countless conversations and heard countless amounts of stories from guys saying that they've gone to their father, or they've gone to their mom or another girlfriend and said, oh, this is how I felt about that, and been like, well, suck it up, or well, move on. Like that's how the world is. Life isn't fair. Those types of responses can make a person never ever want to open up. Think about it as a long trial and error, not just one night where you expect him to divulge his heart, because it can be very difficult. It's very difficult for them to do this. And in this trial and error, we want to show that there's no pressure, that this is more of an invitation as opposed to a demand. Without that pressure, and once he's able to see, like, oh, I told her this and she reacted really cool, or I started getting choked up and her face didn't screw up, or I took mad long to answer and she didn't say what. Like, there have been conversations that I've had with men in the past where I ask a question and it legit takes minutes, like minutes of silence for there to be comfort. Sit in the feelings, sit in that discomfort, like lead that charge. Why is it important for bae to be vulnerable with you? I think it's important for a man to be vulnerable with a woman, or to see that, because I personally think that as a partner, that is my job, to be that safe space for a bae. It's my job to be his secret keeper and his nurturer and his safe space. Thank you so much for watching. I had a lot of fun with this topic, and I hope that this brings some insight, some joy, some inspiration to a relationship, because vulnerability is one of my favorite topics. And I think if we continue to encourage our men to tap into the softer sides of them, that is when they become more masculine. Trust me. It's a major key. Thank you for watching. I hope you got something from it, and can't wait to talk to you next time. Bye.